Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Games with Kellie and Andrew. I'm Andrew.
I'm Kellie.
I put a lot of thought into it.
He forgot who he was.
It wasn't that I forgot
remember
what my name was. I think I kind of forgot how we do this.
Yeah.
It hasn't been long.
Do you like my blanket? It has a mummy and a skeleton on it.
Oh, it's Halloween. Well, it's September 12th, but
that I have to celebrate Halloween a little bit early this year because most of my Halloween planning and celebrating time will be
taken,
devoted to wedding prep.
Yeah. So you just pretend Halloween is on September 20. How many days are there in September? 29? 31? 30?
30.
30.
Because October's always 31.
Yeah, because Halloween.
So September's always 30.
Shall we dive right in after talking about how many days are in September?
Yes, let's.
During none of the days of September, you're going to be getting DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. Please forgive me.
But you kind of made that more confusing.
During an interview with Famitsu Magazine, producer of the Legend of Zelda series, Eiji Aonuma, was like, hey guys, there's no plans for more content. Tears of the Kingdom is a finished game. We're not adding anything. I think this is good news. I really liked Breath of the Wild, but I didn't love the DLC. I thought it was unable to recapture that glory because it was in such a it was the same exact place, you know? And obviously Tears of the Kingdom is a reused map and all, but it captured something new and incredible, and I just don't know how DLC could do more.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the DLC, I would agree. I just feel like this game doesn't really need it. Not that I think any game really needs DLC. I think more often than not, it's just like an added treat. But I don't know. Also, I feel like, and this isn't necessarily a Zelda problem, but I feel like sometimes DLC with Nintendo titles is a little bit stinky.
I feel like most of their games just get weird free updates, you know?
Yeah, or it's expansion pass stuff, which is kind of confusing.
Yeah. Are you thinking about Fire Emblem, where it's a little bit confusing?
Yeah, and Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. That's kind of, it's not their model, obviously, for every game. And obviously there are games on the Switch that aren't Nintendo, but I just feel like it's probably for the best.
Yeah, I think it's good news.
Yes. You know what might also be good news?
I mean, I think
perhaps
it's good news about a corpse, you know?
Sure.
Good for the corpse.
Yes. So E3, which seems to be the ghost that is constantly haunting, was in the past sort of a collaboration between the ESA. What does that stand for?
Electronic
Software Association. See, I knew it after you said it. And Reed Pop, who are the organizers for PAX. They used to work together on E3. They are no longer working together on E3. This kind of feels not super necessary of a news story because E3 is kind of dead. But there was obvious confirmation that there's no show happening in 2024 and that there might be something happening in 2025 in person.
Wow, that's so soon.
Or it might be digital.
I thought that they had been doing this together for a while. I didn't realize that the first E3 that Reed Pop worked on was 2023. Very prolific E3 that we enjoyed so much. You and I went to it, remember?
Right.
Yeah.
E3 this year.
Uh-huh.
The Entertainment Expo that happened this year
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
at the Staples Center.
So this is a couple breaking up, and you're like, oh, that's so sad. And then you found out that they like had never met each other yet. Like they were like about to go on their first date for like a year. They just kept postponing their first date. And then you were told they broke up, and you're like, is it really like a breakup?
It was a situationship.
Yeah. E3, ESA and Reed Pop were in a situationship. If your soon-to-be husband took your last name, his name would kind of almost be Reed Pop.
Sure, yeah. If you really like stretch the truth and lie.
If you just said it really fast, like Reed Knock, sounds kind of like Reed Pop.
Reed Pop.
Reed Knock.
That's what our children are going to call him. Reed Pop. Or maybe the grandchildren.
That's horrible. I love that a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Your grandchildren will also probably someday on YouTube be rewatching the 2023 Tokyo Game Show Xbox digital broadcast. I think that this will be going down in history, and your grandchildren will inevitably watch it.
Okay. If you think that.
And we'll be watching it on September 21st, or I guess technically September 22nd at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So when we wake up.
Yeah, definitely.
I would not expect a lot of big announcements from this, but these are typically really good Game Pass showings because they really like to show off their love for more Japanese studios these days. I think we'll probably get a new Persona 3 trailer if I had to guess. Who knows what else? I'm excited.
Persona 6? Just kidding.
I mean, yeah, no,
it's
that's
just
not
a joke.
Yeah, that's not gonna
The way you were like, I mean, like you like kind of wanted to make me feel better, and then you were like, no.
I couldn't do that to you. Well, Persona 3 Reload is soon, so it's like you got something.
Yeah.
And maybe there will be something cool at the show for you. I mean, you have Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 5 Royal, soon to be Persona 3 Reload, all on Game Pass. But, they could do more, right? Like,
maybe Persona 2.
That'd be weird.
Would it? They were on PSP.
I guess I'd be shocked if Persona 1 and 2 ever saw the light of day again, because it's so different from, like, the brand that they've so successfully built recently.
It is. If anything, I think Persona 2 would get a quiet port to Game Pass.
Yeah, especially because it's 2 games, so it's like a little confusing messaging-wise. I say that as though Persona 5 doesn't have 5 games now.
To be fair, Persona 5, they're like the same. Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal are kind of the same game until a certain point.
Yeah, but what about
there's different
Strikers
features, but
and also
the 2 Persona 2 games are different games.
Yeah, but what about
So
Persona 5 Strikers and Persona 5 Tactica and, in a sense, Persona Q2?
Well, those are all like different platforms. Not Strikers, I guess, but
wait, they're all what do you mean different platforms?
Well, Q2 was on
3DS, yeah. Q2 is the biggest stretch of those. But I think Strikers and Tactica, especially because Strikers is a direct sequel. I don't know Tactica's deal. I think
you could look at Tactica and say that it's probably not like a big deal.
No, it's the style change, yeah. Because Strikers is straight up a sequel. It like follows the story of Persona 5 and has more stuff. But it's the sequel to Persona 5, not Persona 5 Royal.
Yeah, because Kasumi's kind of not.
It came out in America. It came out after Royal. In Japan, it came out before Royal. So like Kasumi didn't exist yet.
Yeah,
so that's
very confusing.
Sega of America's fault. Anyway, September 22nd, September 21st Japanese time, September 22nd, middle of the night here. There will be that showcase. So look forward to hearing some cool Game Pass news September 22nd when you wake up. And we'll talk about it if there's something really cool.
You want to hear something not cool?
Yeah, that's my jam. I love things that are not cool.
So Embracer is trying to sell Gearbox now.
How much? I have some cash.
$3 maybe?
I have $4. I could be the top bidder.
I don't know. Maybe if you buy it, you'll get to see the Borderlands movie. You'll get to go to the premiere.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Much to think about.
I'm
Does Embrace? I
considering.
mean, does what else did Gearbox make? Tiny Tina's Wonderland, or was that somebody else?
That's also still Borderlands.
I know, but
They
would
made that
I mean
Aliens
if
game that everybody hated.
Alien game?
Aliens Colonial Marines in 2013.
I don't think people hated that game as much as.
That was the one that didn't work. Not Alien Isolation. Aliens Colonial Marines, the one where the aliens have like very, very bad AI, so they just don't work.
Oh,
I think they might.
maybe I'm thinking of. I think I'm thinking of XCOM.
Oh, people love that game.
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
It's a lot of like, it's Borderlands basically, and then like a lot of miscellaneous stuff.
So what about like
Bulletstorm.
Tales from the Borderlands? Is that so? That's developed by
Telltale,
Telltale,
published by Gearbox.
but published by Gearbox. Okay.
Gearbox also
Interesting.
publishes like indies. Like they published that Have a Nice Death game earlier this year.
Oh.
They have weird publishing deals, which is confusing because they're, I don't know, you think of like developers being bought by no, I guess they buy publishers. Ignore me. Gearbox just put out Remnant 2 as well, which is pretty well received.
Right.
And Blanc? I didn't know they put that game out from earlier this year.
Well.
Anyway, they're for sale and
getting sold.
I'm buying them.
Wow. Good for you.
They're worth about 1.3 billion, so we'll see how much they actually get sold for.
I think we can swing that here at Talking Games. I think we can do a GoFundMe and raise enough money to buy Gearbox.
Yeah, I mean, if we just kind of like shift some assets around.
Exactly.
It's also concerning because last week we were talking about Embracer because they shut down Volition and now they're selling Gearbox. I hate that this like conglomerate is buying up a bunch of studios and now they're like, uh-oh, and like sort of burning everything to the ground.
Yeah, they're kind of
Dipwads.
sweeping the chimney.
Sweeping the chimney.
Sweeping it out.
You know who is sweeping the chimney at Gamescom? Using their Joy-Con controllers?
Oh, who could that be?
Nintendo. Nintendo, reportedly, take this with a grain of salt, was showing off behind closed-door demos for the Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo Switch follow-up, whatever you want to call it, to different developers and publishers to kind of give them an idea of what they're going to be dealing with when they get their hands on the console. They showed off Breath of the Wild. Yes, Breath of the Wild, but running at 4K and 60 frames per second, which is, I mean, that's pretty impressive because, you know, most high-powered PCs are able to run that game at 4K 60, but running it on a handheld, that's pretty crazy. And then, again, reported, but this could be a big deal, The Matrix Awakens, which if you remember was the demo that they released for PlayStation 5 and Series X after the Game Awards in 2021. As a game, very not good, very stupid, but as a technical showcase, pretty darn impressive. It had like a ton of incredible real-time rendering techniques, different things for like just the way they showed off the city that they built at the beginning was really impressive and showed a lot of really cool techniques. I would not see that running on a handheld. So if this is true, they got some black magic in this thing. Like I think NVIDIA might have something really crazy that they figured out. And if true, I am like, that means that games will be able to come out on Nintendo hardware the same day they come out on PlayStation and Xbox and not be some greatly downgraded product.
Yeah, I mean, the rumor mill is powerful indeed. I guess my thing is that I think it's interesting that Nintendo's sticking with the portable element, that they may never go back to a home console again, probably because the Switch has been so successful. I guess it's really at this point just a matter of like specs, you know, like what this could possibly look like, what kind of hardware it's sporting, what its screen looks like, what its home dock looks like, I guess, what the battery looks like.
How do they differentiate it? Yeah.
Right. Other than performance. And if the performance is so good, what did they have to cut back on in other places to make that performance so good? Which is what I'm curious back if they had to at all, because who really knows? I'm also very curious about what the price point would be, because we have seen, I mean, things are only getting more expensive these days. And if this is really as optimized as these rumors claim it is, then I can't imagine it will be cheap.
I can't. You're right, but I also cannot imagine Nintendo selling a console for like more than $400. Because like they used to be the $300 console. It's like, oh, we're below the other ones by $100 to $200, but like with all the inflation and that, I'm like, I can't imagine them going lower than $400. And if it's as powerful as they say, $400 is a, logical price point. I imagined it would probably be like, just from the sounds of this, at least a Series S console with a screen on it. Series S is a $300 console. Shrink it a little bit, slap a screen on it. I guess $400 makes sense, but Nvidia is also really good at making really reasonably priced chips when they want to. So I just want to see. I want to see. I'm ready to see it. I'm sure it'll probably be a while. I would be surprised if we saw it this year. I would put a lot more stake on early next year once Mario Wonder and I guess Mario Wonder's the big thing. Once Mario Wonder's out the door and they can rake in a bunch of the sales from that, then I think it would make sense. Because all they got next year is Princess Peach and that Luigi's Mansion port right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like they sort of ushered out all the big stuff this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like Zelda and Mario and, this year Mario's coming out in
October, yeah.
October.
The day of your wedding.
Right.
Spider-Man
right.
and Mario.
And, Pikmin's obviously not as big as those titles, but Pikmin is a Nintendo title. So.
I mean, it did a lot better than Pikmin ever has, so it's still something,
Yeah, so it just feels like they're making way for it early next year, I would agree.
Yeah. And also the fact that, like, 3D Mario, new Mario Kart, like, all these things would make a lot of sense in the next year, and it would make a lot more sense, and Metroid Prime 4 would make a lot more sense to do them on a new console. And if it runs as well as they're saying, like, I'm excited. What I really, really want is an SSD, because load times on Switch are the thing that bothers me more than most. I just don't like load times anymore because PlayStation 5 and Series X have me spoiled. If they could figure out how to do maybe like not as powerful of hardware, but with an SSD, that's a good trade-off, As long as the thing can rock like 1440p and pretty stable frame rates, I don't need games to look like Final Fantasy 16 level quality, I'm okay with games being a little less high quality for that handheld trade-off. Even if I don't use it, I understand the appeal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what you might be playing on that thing?
What?
Starfield. Not soon.
Playing Starfield on what?
Nintendo. That seems funny.
Oh, sure.
It'd
Why
be
not?
funny to put Starfield on Nintendo and not PlayStation. That'd be hysterical.
Let's live in delusion together.
Hey.
Let's be Delulu together.
Let's do it while we talk about Bethesda's big new release. Dun 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 dun. What song? I'm singing the Uncharted theme song. Why in my brain was like, that's the song. That's the song that Starfield does not have a tune that I can think of right now.
No, I will say Starfield's music is very good, though. I feel like it really captures that sort of like new frontier, futuristic, retro kind of aesthetic they've got going on.
Yeah, I got a good chunk of hours into this game. I started on release day, and I'm about 6 hours in. By like Fnatic standpoints, I'm not that far in. But, I think 6 hours is a pretty hefty amount of time to put into a game. I've only really done main story content. This will be spoiler-free, partially because I am ahead of Kelly, and also because, to be honest, I wouldn't know how to spoil this game. The story's kind of just... Well, I'm going to let you start, Kelly. Tell me about your impressions of Starfield.
Sure. So I am definitely not as far in as Andrew. I did not have a ton of time to play this past week because I went away on a trip over the weekend.
She went away. I was doing air quotes in case you couldn't see, audience.
I did go away.
She went.
I wasn't on a spaceship.
She, quote unquote, went away
to the loony bin. And then they let me out because I was too annoying. They're like, oh my God, she's fine. Just get her out of here.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're okay. So I played it on launch, which was what, like last Wednesday?
Wednesday.
No, it was last Tuesday at 8 p.m.
Oh, last
right?
Tuesday. Yeah. I don't think I played it till Wednesday, technically, so.
So I actually had my fantasy draft that day. That's fantasy football. For those who don't know, not Final Fantasy.
I love doing my Final Fantasy draft.
A little gamer joke for you. But so I only really had a brief amount of time to play. My first impressions are that there are things that I genuinely really like about the game. Like I said, I think the music is great. I think they really commit to the aesthetic, which is nice. I think visually, in terms of like
design,
interiors, I think look awesome. I think, yeah, and the design. My issue sort of crops up when you go outside. For the record, I'm playing on Game Pass on my PC. I have a pretty good PC. Just letting everybody know. The performance of my game is not good at all.
Oh.
I followed all of the install instructions. I'm on an SSD. I don't even have I truly don't know what happened here. I have some working theories that the game just isn't as compatible with NVIDIA graphics drivers because of Bethesda's relationship with AMD. But you didn't hear that from me. But yeah, it just doesn't perform super great. I can't even get past 30 frames most of the time unless I'm inside, which is why I say inside looks great. So I go outside and then there's stutter. The artifacting is not good either. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I don't know if it's just the game just doesn't want to cooperate with NVIDIA.
I've heard a lot
drivers.
about optimization problems on PC, so.
Yeah. And Todd Howard has the absolute gall to say, just get a better PC. Oh my God. It's fine. I'm not even mad. I don't find the worlds or the story to be particularly engaging. Now, this is not necessarily an issue with Starfield specifically. This is sort of a Bethesda problem. No one is oh my God, remember the main quest in Skyrim? It's not really. You're probably remembering more about the side quests and the fun you had and the atmosphere of the game, which I'm thinking is probably what's going on with Starfield 2. Same thing with Fallout 3, though I will say I think the main quest in Fallout 3 is a little bit stronger than in Skyrim.
Yeah.
But for this being Bethesda's first new IP since Fallout, Fallout's not even Bethesda's IP. It's somebody else's.
I guess technically it's their first. I mean, it's their first fully new game in 3 console generations, right? Right.
So it's kind of you were. If you're going into it expecting really really deep, rich, engaging characters and story, I am apologizing now to you because that is not happening. I think there are moments here and there where you're oh, something's happening here. But I just don't find myself particularly engaged. And sometimes I think it's just Bethesda jank that makes it a little bit funny when characters are looking at you and they're
what, the clip I sent you? The terrifying clip I sent you?
I think it must be some weird animation thing that they tried out for this game that maybe just doesn't work as well as intended. But sometimes characters will just look at you with really wide eyes, like out of nowhere. Like they'll just be like,
yeah, the animations aren't always. I mean, that's
because,
one of the worst parts of the game is the animations for sure.
And it's because Bethesda uses this engine, this rig that they have like not even touched. I mean, it's fine. I guess my issue, and this is not to be like, I'm not trying to be a hater, because I've dealt with some pretty bad stuff on launch before. I won't bring up Cyberpunk, but just know that that's what I'm referring to. I just would think that for Bethesda, they would want to really show out with this game since it's a new IP for them.
Yeah.
It's Todd Howard's. I cannot talk today.
Deep breaths.
It is Todd Howard's baby child. I just feel like they could have done a little bit more in terms of like avoiding some old pitfalls that they get into very easily. That being said, I feel like if you really like Bethesda games, you will have that experience with this game because that's how it plays. The gunplay is fun, in my opinion. I don't think it's anything to write home about, but it is fun. The gameplay loop is okay. I don't really love the space exploration aspect. Mm-hmm. It's really lame. Like, no, you can't even...
I mean, I'm not trying...
I don't know, maybe... I was just going to say maybe there's more to it that I haven't gotten into yet because I've only been to, like, 3 planets, but...
Nope. I mean, I'm only 6 hours in, but the majority of my quote-unquote exploration is pressing a button that travels me to places. And, like, sometimes I do a grav jump, which means I select those places, and then there's a 5-second animation before I travel there. And I'm like, this is not exploration. And I'm, like, sitting here. My biggest thing is I really wish... Ironically, I wish that they copied Obsidian and went with, like, Outer Worlds approach, which was smaller, much less to explore, but very highly designed planets. So I don't know how many worlds were in Outer Worlds. I can't recall an exact number, but I would say less than a dozen, right?
I think so.
And
I never finished that game.
The big thing about them is they're all heavily designed. There's a lot going on in them. They're heavily packed. Every, nook and cranny is deliberate. It's a very Obsidian game. This game has a lot of empty space. Like one of the main quests, they're basically like, go to this big building. And I said, okay. And it was a big empty building, and I grabbed the thing out of the middle and then left. And I was like, well, that was kind of boring because it was like on a desolate planet, but this building was in the middle. And then when I went back to the main quest, they're like, go to a different big building. And I did the same thing where I teleported to this planet using fast travel that they like. There's like a guise of like, oh, you're space travel. It's fast travel, okay? Sometimes it has an animation, but it's fast travel. I teleported there. It was a desolate planet with a big building in the middle. And then I walked in and I grabbed the thing. And then I left. And I said, that wasn't engaging. That was just a fetch quest. I feel like everything I've done has been fetch quests so far. And sometimes I have to shoot some people. And sometimes I have to talk to some people. And like, I like persuading people. I like talking to people, but ultimately it's just luck of the draw. There is no, like, think about what you're saying. It literally is like, the green choice is easy, the yellow choice is medium, and the red choice is hard. Pick whichever one you feel like doing to roll the dice. And I'm like, that's not at all in, like, I never think about what the person I'm talking to would want me to say. It's just a random number generator. So...
Yeah, I don't feel like the dialogue has depth, and I guess I don't know what I was expecting. They acted like there was going to be so much depth in the previews, but it's the same as Fallout 4. It's nice, mean, sarcastic, goodbye.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even get sarcastic.
It's just, I'm enjoying the game to an extent. I mean, I'm 6 hours in. I would have dropped it earlier if I was not liking it at all. There is some it factor, but it might just be nostalgia because this game feels designed the same way that Fallout 3 and Skyrim were, and Fallout 4 to an extent, where like it's just like old, This game feels like a PlayStation 3 game, but with more to it, I guess, in a technical sense. This game has too much to it, in my opinion. That's one of my biggest problems, is there is too much going on. There are so many mechanics and numbers and stats being thrown at you. Like, there are like 50 billion types of ammo. And I'm like, this is confusing. It should be pistol, shotgun, rifle, and laser gun. And I'm like, that's it. But there's like pistol 1, pistol 2, pistol 3, and I'm like, what? That's confusing. I don't want to have to keep track of all these ammo types. And then I run out of ammo and I'm like, oh, I can't use pistol. No, I could use that pistol, but I can't use that. It's just confusing.
Yeah. Especially because they're not real guns. Like, you can't.
No, there's no
they're all
reference
fake.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, the space stuff, everything about like the space exploration is kind of interesting, but like I said, you're just teleporting around. I've had a couple space battles I encountered and they were just over kind of quickly, but like upgrading my spaceship is so confusing and there's so much going on, and they didn't explain any of it to me. They were like, here it is, and do it if you want. And I was like, that's too much. Same thing with the crafting and like the weapon and armor upgrading. I'm like, there's so many different things, and I was not explained. I think to like I'm also playing Sea of Stars, and I talked about that last week, so I won't go too deep into it. But that game, obviously, immensely smaller scope. But the thing that is sticking out to me in comparison to Starfield is it drip feeds things. So right now, I'm like 7 hours into that game, and I have a ton of different mechanics available to me, but they were given to me at a very good pace. Where like, okay, I learned this mechanic, I got a grasp on it. Okay, new mechanic. Oh, now I have this at my disposal, and it just drops these things on me slowly. I've played them the same amount of time, but Starfield, starts kind of slow and easy. Here's how you turn your flashlight on. Here's how you pick things up. Okay, that's all you need. Go. And then they drop a billion things right on top of you, and I'm like, that's overwhelming. And because of that, I haven't done much of it. And it has that same like Bethesda thing where like there are main side quests, if that makes sense, like side quests for organizations, and then there's just activities. But I don't even want to do the side quests for organizations because they dropped so many activities on me at the same time, and I'm just like, this is too much. This is too much. And I'm just finding myself fall back on the story quest, which is how I tend to play games. I'm not a big side quest person because I want to play as many games as possible, and obviously that makes that difficult. But it's just, there's not a lot to engage me. And I kind of agree with you about the combat. I do think it's fun, and I think like the boost pack is fun, although they don't explain to you that you're not allowed to use it till you unlock it in the skill tree. So if you're going to play this game or you're starting it, get that first, get the boost pack skill like very, very early so you can actually double jump. Because that's weird that it's not just like, if I put a boost pack on, I think that would unlock, right? No, I don't have the skill.
Yeah, that is annoying.
And that's just another one of those like obtuse things that I happened upon, thankfully. But the combat is kind of fun. If it gets like a little too challenging, it feels like, okay, I don't really have a lot of control because the aiming is not very smooth. And there's no like VAT system, which I find silly. I know that's a Skyrim thing, but the VAT system would have worked.
A Skyrim thing?
Sorry, a Fallout thing. But like, I think VATS would have made a lot of sense here. And VATS is where you can slow time and pick a body part on an enemy and shoot at it. And they had it in Fallout 4. And did they cut it from 76, or it just doesn't freeze time anymore because it's multiplayer?
It didn't really freeze time in Fallout 4 either.
Oh, yeah, it slowed.
In 3 in New Vegas, it froze time.
Yeah.
Nobody could move. But in 4, it slowed time,
okay.
Which I assume is the same for 76, but I've never played it, so.
I thought 76 had to remove it because it's online. Maybe they might. That was years ago. They probably fixed that by now.
Yeah, I don't know.
But this game would be prime for that. It makes sense that it's not in like Elder Scrolls because you're not fighting enemies with guns, so it's a lot easier, and you're doing a lot more hand-to-hand combat. This game does not feel good to do hand-to-hand combat in. Also, like, the games that are of this scope, other games of this scope, give you a lot of freedom. I decided I was doing a main quest, and I walk in, and there's like this room of people, and I'm like, what would happen if I just went berserk? So I saved, and I just started going nuts, and I killed everybody in the room. And it just did like the same thing where, the main character's like bent down and then waited and then stood up and then acted like I didn't just kill all of their friends. And then I was like, what happens when I talk to them? And it would play like the first 3 words of her sentence over and over and over, and it wouldn't let me progress. And I'm like, if I didn't save before this, I just broke the game. This is the main quest, and I just broke it. So it doesn't have a lot of freedom.
Oops.
I think the Bethesda it factor is there to an extent, and I can't fully explain it, but it's maybe just nostalgia, but I am still kind of enjoying it. But here's my biggest thing I'll say. This is like my big point, and I hope I'm wrong as I play more and finish the game. I think I'm going to forget this game. You know, like Fallout 3, Skyrim, even Fallout 4 to an extent are, you know, glued in my brain. You know, they're there forever. And I know there's nostalgia involved, but Fallout 4 doesn't have nostalgia. It was just, you know, there was something there to enjoy. Maybe it was just exploring the world, even if it was not as big as space. But I don't think I'll remember. If this game does not change something, I will enjoy it well enough for the 15 to 20 hours it takes to finish the main quest, and then I will forget I played it before the end of the year, and people will be bringing it up in the Game of the Year awards, and I'll be like, oh, forgot about that.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
Yeah, and I will just say as my closing thoughts, I don't want to talk about an unrelated game, but the truth is that Baldur's Gate 3 coming out before this game really spoiled the entire Starfield experience for me, because why would I play this role-playing game when I could play a role-playing game that I know I will have fun with and that I know has more choice, has more freedom, has more reactivity, is more fun. I mean, it's really quite sad for them, but who cares? I'm sure they've made just an exorbitant amount of money off of Starfield already, and they do not need my sympathy.
It's just, that's the other thing is like so many millions of people are playing it, but
yeah,
I can't imagine this game sticking around in the discourse, you know?
Yeah, unless something really memorable happens. I do like the robot Vasco, big fan.
I like him enough, but I got a new companion later, and she's cool and has an accent. I was like, well, you're my companion for the rest of the game. You have an accent.
Yeah, good point.
Different from the first accent. The first woman you meet also has an accent, but
that's true.
Also, if you're selecting your information or like the perks at the beginning, don't pick the parents one. Because
you have to send them money, right?
Yeah, I'm not even worried about the money. It's the fact that because it's like 5%. It's like something negligible. But the fact is that I met them and they were like, oh, we're your parents. And then that was the end of the conversation. I was like, okay. And then they were like, oh, we're now in the main story room. Because like the Constellation is the group of researchers that are trying to figure out this big interspace mystery. My parents are just there now, and they are regularly in front of important people while they're talking. And I'm like, Mom, Dad, go home. Your home is down funny. The street. Why are you here? So don't pick that one.
That's quite funny.
I picked unhelpful.
I can't remember what I picked.
Yeah, they don't mean that. They don't mean much.
What was your backstory?
Unknown, mysterious.
Oh. I almost wanted to be a chef.
That would have been very funny. Why is a chef doing all of this stuff?
I know, but then I decided to be a combat medic because...
you start in the mines no matter what, right?
Right. It's so why is there a chef down here in the mines?
Yeah, not.
She wants a little extra money on the side, but instead of cooking for people, she would rather go down in the mines to make extra money.
Yeah, it's not... Sure. The whole backstory thing does not help, you know? And it makes me think of like that Skyrim mod that people love where you have a different ending based on background different start based on which background you pick.
Oh.
And that's a really good idea. Why did Starfield not do that?
I was going to say, not too much on the alternate start mod, okay? That is one of my favorite Skyrim mods.
That's a really good idea. Why did they not steal that? And also, I really wish they scaled this game back immensely because exploring space... I wish I could actually fly between planets. That's an absurd missed opportunity. Even if it was like something silly, like in Mass Effect, you had like a little ship that you were like, right? Yeah, I would take that, like this tiny little ship on an abstract map over just not being able to travel. And you can move, but not really. It's really frustrating.
It's terrible.
It's so disappointing.
And the controls on mouse and keyboard are awful for the for the movement.
They are good on controller. I will give them that. The controls on the spaceship are really good on controller, but doesn't really matter because there's not much to do in spaceship. I'm going to keep my hopes up. Hopefully it kind of comes together for me, but I think that's the big thing. Nothing is awful. Well, the facial animations are pretty bad, but nothing is that terrible. It's just a lot of like, kind of things, and it's just sort of like, I don't know if this game will stick with me, and that's sad,
Yeah, definitely.
And it makes me, oddly enough, it does make me excited for Elder Scrolls 6, because I'm like, this game would have been like, because the catered areas, like the cities and stuff that you go to, are really cool and well designed, and I'm like, if this game was a series of interconnected worlds that were this thoroughly designed, I think I'd like it a lot. And I think that's where Bethesda thrives, Like, It's not like there's something going on in every inch of Fallout 3 or New Vegas or Fallout 4, but like, at least you're exploring this world that is connected,
Yeah.
So I just feel, I'm worried that this game will fall to the wayside. And I also the critical reception is like incredibly good. It's like an 87 average. That seems really high to me right now. So I'm curious how much nostalgia goggles were put on.
Yeah. Or Bethesda forgiveness.
Yeah. And it is not nearly as buggy as Bethesda games usually are. That is correct. Todd did not lie. It's the least buggy game they've made. But I don't think bugs are a problem. If it has heart, as long as the bugs don't break the game, I think it's silly when you shoot somebody and they fall on the ground, they're just like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's funny. Mm-hmm. The only bug I've had in this, and I sent it to Kelly, is I like did a little story thing, and then my companion was like, you did it. And like I turned and the screen like went like blurry and dark, and I was like, what's going on? And then there was just a mouth right on the screen, and it was like, you did it. And I was like, oh my God, I don't need to see your teeth. But
yeah.
Lot to discuss, lot to play. I hope for your sake more that this game starts clicking. I could see it being really special for you if it works. Not like technically.
Yeah.
Well, I guess technically because your PC hates it too.
Yeah, I know. Womp womp.
Starfield. I guess that'll do it for another episode. And we got to go play more Starfield right now.
Got to go play more Fartfield.
You didn't say that once. Good restraint.
Thank you.
I'm proud.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I was very brave this episode.
You were. And I'm hungry this episode. So that's why I'm ending, not because we have no more to talk about.
Right. Definitely. Definitely that's not why.
All right, people.
All right. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you have a great day. Bye.